Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our Evolve 365 Microsoft Tips and Tricks session today. We wanted to start this weekly series to give you simple and easy tips that you can go back to your desk and quickly implement. We know your time is valuable, so we're striving to keep sessions to no more than 30 minutes, sometimes even less. We're pushing out the topics monthly, so you just have to sign up once for the series instead of 4 or 5 times. And always remember, if you miss any sessions, you can find our recordings on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/planettechnologies. So a little about myself. I'm Tanya Kaiser and your host for today. I'm going to lead most of the sessions. Time to time, you may have somebody else from Planet. I have more than 15 years experience with project management across multiple industries, including technology, legal, nonprofit, and construction. I'm also a longtime Microsoft geek and SharePoint nerd. One of the things that I really enjoy is helping people learn new skills with a product that they're familiar with, or coming to a product brand new like SharePoint and learning something completely different. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. So a little about Planet. Planet has been providing expert support in the Microsoft world for over 18 years. We offer full services for the entire Microsoft Cloud and Productivity Suite, including advisory, deployment, and training services, mobile application development and solutions, and strategic business consulting, including technology, compliance, and security guidance. So we're going to go ahead and kick things off, and today we're going to take another look at Outlook and a few of the different ways that you can customize your inbox so it's working for you. In the past, we've shown you some quick trips for your calendars and also taken a look at clutter. Today we're going to look specifically at the Outlook client and some of the built-in tools that are there. So a quick update. So as we know, Office 2016 is very much tied to Office 365, and new features are being rolled out on a regular basis. So if you purchased a standalone Office product and you're not connected to Office 365, you may not see some of these. But if you're part of an organization that is using Office 365, you may notice from time to time that you get new buttons on your Outlook client. So some of the recent ones that they've rolled out are an archive button directly on the ribbon, so you can now archive with a single click. They also added in a Tell Me, which is a search bar at the top of your Outlook box, and the minute you start typing, you get results. So you don't have to continue searching like you would in Google and try different phrases. It's going to be very responsive and guess what menu you're looking for. Groups are brand new to Office 365. They've been out for a while, but now we're starting to see them fully integrated into the Outlook client. And a lot of people are using groups instead of distribution lists. So a distribution list, you pretty much just have email. With a group, you can also share files, and you can maintain that whole conversation history. You can also create groups directly from the ribbon now, too. One new feature that rolled out in July, August is using the @ in an email, very similar like you would in social media. So if you're typing an email to somebody and you want to make sure that you draw their attention, you would just use that @ symbol, type in their email, and then Outlook is going to automatically add them to the to line for that email. One feature that I'm really excited to see directly on the ribbon is recovering deleted items directly from Outlook. So in past Office versions, if you had, Outlook 2007 or 2010 and you deleted something and then you deleted your whole deleted items folder, you then usually had to go find one of your system admins and see if they could recover that from the Exchange server. Office 365 has been making that a little bit easier for quite a while now. If you were connected to Office 365, you could always go to Outlook Online and recover items from the web client. But now that's directly within Outlook. You have that feature, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit. So again, this is specific to the Outlook client apps or somebody that's connected to Outlook Online. If you're not connected to Outlook Online or Office 365 in any way, you're still going to have to be best friends with your mail administrator. So one of the first things that I want to take a look at when we talk about getting your Outlook inbox to work for you is the Conversations view. So this is now the default setting in Outlook. So if you have a brand new email account and you open up Outlook or you go to Outlook Online, you're going to see things grouped by conversation, and normally they're also arranged by date. This is pretty much a love or hate option. People either use it or they don't at all and they want to get rid of it. But this is the default, so I'm going to show you how you can turn that on or off. Now there's buttons on the ribbons, they make it easier. You can also reverse sort that order. Now if you are only using Outlook Online, there pretty much isn't another option for you. They're going to be grouping those emails into that no matter what you try and do. So we'll take a quick look, and we're going to go directly into the online client because I just want to show you this is an online account. I have my inbox. You can see I have some folders underneath my inbox for Project Falcon. But if you look through my inbox, you can see that I've got some items here And again, if you have something that's multiple items, they're going to automatically group them. So here's one, for example. You can see that there are several different messages in here. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't like that conversation thread view and you're only using Outlook Online, unfortunately, there's not a way around this. So you're going to, be faced with this. Now, I can go and open up an individual message and have it pop out, but that's really the only way you can view individual messages. And you can see even on that, it's going to still thread them together. So that's the default for Outlook Online. And this is actually one of the #1 reasons that people use the client version. So I'm going to switch to my Outlook 2016. So we're in the actual desktop application. And you can see that, again, by default, it wants to group those items for me. It's also grouping them by date for me, too. So I can minimize a folder if I have older items. I can specify just last week, last month. But again, I have that conversation thread. So if you're faced with this and you want to turn it off, and this one, because it's my demo client, it's already turned off, you do this directly from the ribbon. So you're going to go up to your ribbon and go to View. You can see in the second grouping here for messages, it's just a button, Show as Conversations. Now I can tell you that before I click this magical button, I'm going to say just this folder. I only want to show my inbox right now. And it's just going to pull everything together. So I can tell you that Microsoft is very, very responsive to feedback, and you do have those feedback options from within your applications and online. And if you're really, really stuck with using conversations in Outlook Online, that is one of their top requests. So I always encourage people to go in, put in your feedback. Eventually, when it hits a critical mass, we don't know what that magical number is, we suddenly roll out a new feature that's speaking to some of those feedback comments. So I turned on Conversation View, and again, I'm looking at that same email. You can see now it's grouped. So it's really simple to do in the Outlook client. You just show as conversations, and then I can uncheck that. And then if you are using conversations, you have some settings. Do we want to show messages from other folders? That means if this thread goes across multiple folders, it's in the deleted items, maybe it's in a sent item, it's still going to show it in this one view. So I have a full record of everything. We can also click Show Senders above the subject. So you can see if I uncheck that and I go back to my message, it's going to modify that view. The other settings are always expand the selected conversation. So if I click on it, I want it to automatically expand that, and then use the classic indented view. So the classic indented view, it's going to have that top message, and then everything underneath it is going to be indented. So you have a couple of options that you can use to customize it. But again, for the most part, this is that threaded view, and it really is a very personal choice. Outlook is one of the few Office applications that you can completely customize to look exactly the way you want it. Almost every single view in here can be customized. So again, I'm in the later camp. I'm not a fan of conversation view. I like to see my individual messages, so I'm going to uncheck that, and I'm going to say, go ahead and change this folder. You can see that now those settings are dimmed. So that's one very, very quick way that you can make Box be what you want it to be. Again, conversations are the default, so if you have users and you just moved to Outlook Online or just upgraded to 2013 or 2016 for Outlook, this may be one of your top complaints. So you can come in and tell them, no, just click that button, conversations will turn on or off. So I'm going to go back to my slide deck. And the next thing that we want to look at is the reading pane and message preview. So this is, again, one of those love or hate things. People either really love the reading pane and the message preview, or they want it completely gone. It's a very personal choice, and you want to make sure your users have the ability to set up their email inbox the way that they prefer, because that's probably the #1 used tool in the office world, and even in the personal world. Email is king. It's really not going to go anywhere. But this is, again, something that Outlook can do very, very easily. So we're going to go back to the Outlook client. And you can see in my inbox, I already have the reading pane. So if you weren't sure with the terminology, this is the reading pane here on, in my case, the right-hand side. Now I can change that on the location, and then the message preview is how I see this one line of a message preview. So those are two separate options, the reading pane and message preview. A lot of people think that they're the same thing, but you can actually turn those on or off. So on the reading pane, this is, again, going to the View ribbon is where going to be a lot of these settings are, and you have a button over to the right-hand side called Layout. And for reading pane, I have a couple of choices. I have it on the right, which is the default. I can move it to the bottom. So as I select a message, it'll give me the preview underneath my inbox. You can see I've got a couple of messages here and it's popping up on the bottom. A lot of people don't like the message reading pane on the bottom for this reason. This is a great example. If you have any graphics, they're not going to see a lot of your message. They're going to have to scroll through that. So that's why the default is actually to the right. You're more likely to see the full message there. And if you're mainly working in text, then it works great. You know, I can see here's a short message and I can see the whole thing. And then the other reading pane option is, of course, to turn it off completely and just see your message preview. So if I do have that turned on onto the right, you can see I have some options there as well. And these options are important because they're going to decide what Outlook does with your messages. So one of the first items is, do you want items to be read when they're viewed in the reading pane? So you can see that my email right here, I'm going to click this off. You know, this email for Pavel about expense reports, I'm seeing this message here, but as I click through it, it's going to show that as read. Now, if I don't want that to happen, that is an option I can turn off. So again, mark items as read when they viewed. So it's a choice. You know, you want the minute that you see that in that reading pane, we're going to consider it read. That may or may not be the case if you're just kind of used to glazing over it and not really seeing it. You can also see that you can specify the number of seconds. So if I'm on this screen for 5 seconds, it's going to show it as read. Maybe I want to increase that to 30 seconds. And then the other item is mark items as read when the selection changes. So that was me clicking from one message to the next. So if I change that message, now I have to be on the screen 30 seconds for it to be read. So if I'm just clicking back and forth, you'll notice that it's not going to show them as read. So some pretty powerful options there in the reading pane. Again, I tend to be in the latter camp. You know, I don't want the reading pane on there. I just like to see my list of messages because I have a lot of email. Very personal preference. Now the other item is the message preview. You can see I have it turned on. This is also the default with Outlook. So in my message preview, I can see who the message is from, the subject, and I see the first line of the email. In the same ribbon, the view, you've got message preview, and I can turn it off, and I can show 1 line, 2 line, or even 3 lines. And again, this is specific to the folder that you're in. You can have it applied to your whole mailbox. So they're trying to make it easier. You don't, you know, if you don't want to go through and say, well, I want 2 lines, I can say all mailboxes, so I don't have to go folder by folder. That didn't used to be the case. That's definitely an improvement. But again, you can also choose to have this completely off. And if you see that the message preview, it doesn't have options like the reading pane. So if you're clicking through the message preview, if this is, you know, you can tell when there is an end there, it's going to put it there. So I know that this is the bulk of the message. I don't even have to click on that item and open it to be able to read it. But if, you know, Robin Counts needed a project update and maybe she had a read request on that email and I open it, depending on how my mail system is set up, you know, that read request may go back automatically. But, you know, maybe I don't want to apply to Robin right now, and I also don't want her to see that I read her message. Message Preview can help you with that. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't open your emails, but again, it's depending on how people work. If people tend to get pretty short messages back and forth, this may be a great option. If you want to just really, really streamline your inbox and see as many messages as possible, then you can just turn that off, and you can see I now have a bunch more emails that I can view. So those are 2 options. Again, message preview, you've got 1, 2, and 3 lines. And then the reading pane, you can put it on the bottom. Usually not recommended if you get emails with a lot of graphics. On the right is by default, or you can turn them off. So very, very much, you know, you can really customize the way Outlook looks for you. There's even in this view panel, we're not going to cover them too much, but you can see there's a folder pane here you can turn off. So if I wanted to completely hide that sidebar, I can. And then there's also a to-do bar. So if I wanted to show my calendar, you know, and my task, I can also show that as well. So lots of options within the view ribbon there to turn on and off. So I'm going to go back to my slide deck really quickly. And this is the one that I want to spend a little bit more time up. So one of the great things about Outlook, we mentioned, you know, recovering deleted items. There's also some really good cleanup tools directly within Outlook. So these are built in out of the box. You don't have to do anything fancy to get these tools. They're just a button that you can press now, which is making it a lot easier. If you're in an organization and people tend to send out happy birthday messages or work anniversaries, and then everybody starts replying, and next thing you know, your inbox is filled with, you know, 100 messages on the same thing, there's an awesome button called Ignore that will ignore a whole conversation thread and automatically move it to your deleted items folder. That's a pretty powerful tool. So if you know it's completely not work related and maybe it's just, hey, let's get together for the football game, and you don't want to see it, Ignore is a great tool to use. I always caution people that if somebody goes off thread, they start, talking about something completely different. Well, hey, it's not a good idea to go to the football game because we've got this, customer issue that popped up, or we have an urgent item on our project. You're going to miss that. It's going to your deleted items folder. On that same token, we talked about conversation thread. Even if you're not using conversation view, there's some cleanup tools. So cleanup will remove any redundant messages within a conversation. So if you have a conversation view and you have 10 messages in there, cleanup will go through those 10 messages, and if the last message includes all of the replies, it's going to delete the other 9. You can also set up some specifications on where you want those cleaned up messages to go. Do they automatically go to deleted items? Do you want them to duplicate the structure somewhere else? So very, very powerful tool that we'll take a look at. It's been around for quite a while. Junk, you can use that to mark spam or any other emails, whether they're marketing or someone who somehow got your email address and you just really don't want to see that. And it's also a good area to double check and make sure that you know who your safe senders are, who's marked as a safe sender for outside organizations that may get flagged by your Exchange system or a webmail filter that you may have set up. On that same token, rules can also be set up to help you organize your inbox. So if you're not using conversations and you're not grouping things, but maybe you have certain people who email you that you always want to see their emails, you can create a folder called VIP or important and then specify who those people are, and then you always know to go look at that one mail folder. This is also just like junk and safe senders. This is another place to check if you happen to be missing emails. Maybe a rule was set up inadvertently. Now, one thing specific to the mobile app, we're primarily looking at the Outlook client, but on the mobile app for Outlook, and I'm looking at the iPhone one, they have another feature called Focused Inbox. Now, this is specific to the mobile app, and Focused Inbox works very similar to Clutter. If you remember our session from a few weeks back, Clutter learns as you use your mail, and it's going to decide for you, oh, this is Clutter because you never respond to this email, or you never respond to this person. A focused inbox does the opposite. This is a very important person. You always email them. We're going to highlight these messages. So we're going to to our first mailbox, and let's look at ignore. So we can see in here I've streamlined my inbox. I'm only showing just the sender and the subject. I don't have a preview. I want to see as much email as I can. So I've got some in here, and maybe there's a couple of things that really, really don't concern me. I can see to start with I've got a couple of messages on device images, and it's not the first message either, but there's a couple in here. Now, again, this is a demo account. There's not a whole lot of email in here, but you can see that even if certain ones start popping up, this could be an issue if people start replying all. So as long as I have that message selected, and most of these cleanup tools are on the home ribbon, I can come up here and I can just say ignore. And if you hover your mouse, it'll always give you a pop-up, and it's going to say move current and future messages in the selected conversation to the deleted items folder. So it's going to really look at that subject line is what it's looking for. And once I click ignore, it is going to prompt me. You can choose to not show that message again if you want. And I just say ignore conversation, and those items, even though I haven't opened them and they're completely unread, they went straight to my deleted items folder. So on that same token, there's always a caveat with ignore, right? I didn't even open them. They're not read. They're going directly to deleted items. If somebody comes in and replies to that message thread, that's also going to go to the deleted items. That's the way the ignore button works. It's very specific to that email thread. And again, any new message, even though it's not going to show up in my inbox, I am going to miss. So you have to be very, very careful about that. Now, cleanup is going to remove those redundant messages, and you have the option to clean up just a conversation, to clean up the whole folder, or to clean up the folder and subfolder. So in this case, in my inbox, I've got another folder for Project Falcon. Now remember, I'm not using that conversation view. We can come in and turn it off, but again, it's going to go through and look for any redundant messages. So in this case, I'm just going to select cleanup, and I'm going to go ahead and say clean up the folder and subfolders because I want it to pull in that Project Falcon. Now again, it's going to remind you, hey, you're taking this action. In this case, it's going to be moved to the deleted items folder. And I can go into settings if I wanted to, and under mail, you can see that there's a cleanup option here. Excuse me. So you do have an option if you scroll down under those settings for conversation cleanup, and I can specify a different folder if I want, but the default, it's all going to go to the deleted items. But you can see there's some of the options here. When cleaning subfolders, recreate the folder hierarchy. So that means if my Project Falcon is only redundant items, then it's going to move that folder to deleted items. I have the option to not move unread messages. So again, that's not selected by default, but if there's a message that I haven't read, maybe I want it to leave it. If I categorized a message or flagged it, made it high priority or a follow-up item, if it's digitally signed, and this is probably the most important one when you're using cleanup other than the unread messages, if a reply modifies a message. That means if the title was, sample images and then somebody comes in and changed that header to final images, it's not going to move that one. So it's really trying to keep separate anything that is changed. So you have those settings. I'm just going to leave them as it is right now, and I'm going to say clean up this folder. There's not a whole lot. We saw one move, and again, if we go to deleted items, we saw 2 come in here. But if you have an inbox that's getting a little out of control, this is a really powerful tool. Now again, you just have to be mindful that this is going to be moving things, potentially items that you have not read, to your deleted items. So if you come back from a long vacation and you say, oh, I'm just going to clean up what's redundant, I don't want to go through 20 messages on the same subject, I just want to see the one, be aware of that setting. So again, the way you get to those settings is the minute that you select it, it's going to give you that pop-up. If you clicked not to show that message again, you would need to go to your options menu under mail, and then scroll down, and there's your conversation cleanup settings. So you could even, create a brand new folder. If you're using this scenario, I'm back from vacation, I don't want to go through all these messages. I know a lot of them are redundant. Maybe you create a folder that says, vacation cleanup, and you move cleanup items to that folder just so you have them in one place. That's something I would recommend if you're looking at that scenario. So 2 powerful tools there, ignore and cleanup. They do some automatic actions, whether it's read or unread. Completely separate is the junk. So you can, within an item itself, so maybe, I don't want to get mails from my mod administrator. Not sure why you would do that. Maybe we've asked them not to send them to me, and I just don't want to see them. You probably wouldn't want to mark that as junk, just in case there is an important option. You would probably want to set up a rule for that instead, and we'll look at that in a minute. But say it is an actual junk email. You can block that sender. You also have some options if things are going into your junk email to make sure that they're a safe sender. And the area that you really want to pay attention to is your junk email options. So you've got some basic options here, no automatic filtering, low, high, safe lists. Now this is built in with Outlook. If you have an Exchange administrator, they may have a completely separate mail filter that's also filtering for junk and suspected spam and phishing. But the one that I want to point out is your safe senders list. So from time to time, you may have users who say, Jane keeps emailing me, but I'm not getting her emails. I don't know where they're going. They're not coming to my inbox. This is one of the first places I would check is junk email, because it's really, really easy to come in, and when you're right-clicking, maybe you intend to ignore something, or maybe you went to move it to clutter and somehow you accidentally click junk, especially if you're dealing with a lot of email. So if somebody's missing emails, I always check the safe senders list, and again, you can do that from the home ribbon under junk, and you've got the junk options. Safe senders, you can add people on there. If there was somebody on there, you can remove them. Safe recipients is another one, and then you also have the blocked senders list. So there's nobody in here, but those are the areas that you want to double check if somebody's missing email. Now the second area that I would try and troubleshoot if you're looking through email issues is under rules. So we looked at ways that you can get your inbox clean automatically, and that's by ignoring a conversation thread, cleaning up the conversation so it removes redundant ones, and then making sure that those emails that you shouldn't be getting are marked as junk. Those are all going to be automatic actions. One that you can come in and create yourself is called a rule, and a rule does exactly what it sounds like. It creates a rule either based on the sender, the recipient, so something that's coming to you and maybe a distribution list, or a conversation topic, and it's a really powerful tool. So if you come in here and you wanted to create a rule, you always have the option create a rule or manage rules and alerts. And if somebody's missing email, you want to go into manage rules and alerts. And that's going to show you, here's all your rules. In my case, I don't have any. If you have SharePoint, it's going to show you alerts from a SharePoint site. If you created an alert on a library or maybe a document list, and that's a really powerful tool because sometimes people go to SharePoint sites and then they set up an alert and they forget and they don't know where the emails are coming from. They can always go to their rules and see all of their alerts for SharePoint. So this is, you can come in here and create a brand new rule. You can also do it directly from your inbox. So if I come in here and let's say Belinda sends out these emails on sports stats, I can see that it's a low priority item, but maybe I don't want to get those at all. I can just come in here and I can create a rule. I can also right click on this and say move, and it's going to say always move messages in this conversation, and that's going to create a rule by me selecting that. It's going to pop up, ask me where I want to move them. Maybe I just want to say, I don't really want them to go to deleted items, so I'll create a brand new folder on that just in case somebody goes off red. I don't really know. You would probably just want to send it to deleted if you are getting sports stats that aren't needed, and then click OK. Now, again, I can come over to my deleted items, and I have that. But if a second email comes in with sports stats, I now have a rule for that. So you can do it from the rules menu, or you can do it by right-clicking on who that user is. Now, if I go into my rules and click Manage, I should have seen a brand new rule here. But you can always come in and create it again. I still have a message, and I can see how you stay organized, stay up to date, start from a blank rule if you want to start completely brand new. But you can go through this and set up some really good rules. So if we wanted to come here and say move messages from someone to a folder, I'll go back to my example earlier. Maybe you have a very important person that you don't want to miss emails from. You just go through and you select these options, and it's just going to fill them in for you. And you keep clicking next, and from people or public group. And this is all going to be connected, so if I know Garth is always sending out emails and I don't want to miss those, I can click it and just fill in their name, and then specified folder. I can create a brand new folder and call it VIP or important, and it's going to be directly in my inbox, and that's where I want them to go. And you just fill out that information. Now when you finish this, it's going to say, do you want this to apply now or any future ones? And I have that checkbox, run this rule now. So then I finish, and it should move all of Garth's messages to my VIP. I'm going to go ahead and click OK on that. And it did that in the background when I clicked OK. And you can see now I have all of Garth's email in my VIP box. So rules are another really, really powerful area that you want to come in and look at. So again, these are just some things that are already in Outlook. You may be using, may not have been aware of them. The ignore button is really, really powerful. The cleanup tool is really, really powerful, especially if you have a lot of different conversations going on. It's really easy to clean that up. And again, you have some powerful settings in there in those cleanup options. You can specify a folder for cleanup if you want to make sure that you don't miss something that went to the deleted items by mistake. So this is just one different way that you can customize Outlook to your needs. We already looked at those sections for cleaning up your inbox. I mentioned that some of these are new to Outlook 2016 and Office 365. And that's one of the things that happens quite a bit with Office 365. They have constant updates and changes. They push out things monthly, and then they tend to have pretty large updates, either quarterly or semi-annually. So if you're struggling with how you can keep up with all of these changes and getting that information in front of your users, Evolve 365 is a Planet technology service that may be able to help you. So it's a subscription-based help desk as a service for Microsoft Office 365, and it's designed to increase your end-user adoption and help evolve your organization to be more productive. What we've done with Evolve 365 is we have over 25,000 self-help videos. These are available on demand on your unique Evolve 365 site. They cover everything from Office 2010 to the current Office 365 and SharePoint, and also Windows operating systems. All of our videos are very short. So the average video is 30 to 45 seconds long. You'd be hard-pressed to find one that's more than a minute or two long. But these are available to users anytime. They can go log on, do some quick searching, or maybe even get guided help. We also update our content regularly. So some of the more recent rollouts of Office 365, like the updated homepage, modern lists and libraries for SharePoint, we already have updated content on that. So you don't have to worry about communicating that information down to your users. It's updated in Evolve for you. We also have additional add-ons such as live support and vision and planning sessions, and every subscription comes with a dedicated Office 365 advisor. We do have a free trial site if you're interested in taking a look. It has a limited portion of our content, so we do have quite a bit of content. On the free trial site, you'll find about 200 videos that will give you a sample of what our content looks like. So if you'd like to take a look at that free trial, you can go to freetrial.o365support.com. If you wanted to find out more information about the service, you can visit the website at o365support.com or email us at info@o365support.com. Now we are getting ready to push out our September series for tips and tricks. I'm going to be covering surveys within Office 365, some SharePoint items, and then some Windows 10 features. Again, if you've ever missed any of our past sessions, you can always find those on our YouTube channel. And one thing that may be of interest to some of our government customers, we're having our first annual Office 365 Summit for Government on October 6th in Washington, D.C. You can visit our website at o365summit.com to find out more information. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me. So I know that we're right at time today. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Again, if you ever have any questions, you can always reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. And I see you next week for our next tips and tricks session. Next week, we're going to be talking about OneDrive and SharePoint, how you decide where your files should go. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. I hope this session on Outlook was informative, and I look forward to seeing you next week.